What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Now, I know most of you don't get this product, okay? Most of you don't get it, and I understand it is complicated, but I want to do very well for my community. And first of all, in my opening statement is I believe the most undervalued ecosystem in the whole entire crypto landscape is Arweave and AO. And I'm going to make a compelling argument here because it's rather tough to understand what this project really represents. Okay, so let's go. Let's first of all let's do the layman's legwork part of the video, because people here just are binary in general. Crypto, meme coins, we get them. We get these fully diluted meme coins, right? So this is the total artificial intelligence market cap, 23 billion, okay, or 32 billion rather, with a 4 billion and the typical, of course, Neo Protocol, Bitensor, virtuals. But there is no way. There's a project up here, okay, with the best tokenomics, and it's actually very, very small. And that project is none other than Arweave. So Arweave is up, what, $540 million, fully diluted. 24-hour trading volume is 50 million, and of course, fully circulating, no pump and dumps, nothing, none of that. Previous all-time high, $89 or 90 bucks, 90% down, been out for donkeys of years. Sam Williams, the best in terms of one of the best founders in the whole of crypto, is up there with the likes of the Solana founder. He is legendary, in my opinion. So why is this such a good investment, in my opinion? Well, first of all, this project is proven. Now, whether you understand the first permanent cloud network, Arweave is misunderstood as just another Filecoin, in my opinion. So what you have is, imagine the web as we become more and more reliant. You saw the fires in Portugal the other day. The internet was down, and that caused accidents and all kinds of stuff. So permanent storage is more important than you think, okay? But one of the things I find really, really fascinating is people like Facebook, of course, Meta, the company, are already using this. Solana's entire NFT collection is held on Arweave, right? But what I'm making a compelling case here for is the tokenomics nature of what they build in, because we want to make money. We want to buy undervalue. We don't want to buy something that 6 months from now you couldn't hold, because obviously the market reach. Of course, if the market turns against us, we want to be able to hold something that I believe could be generational. Okay, so whether they do, domains, gateways, storage, the artificial intelligence with AO, the computer, this ecosystem is absolutely rife. And I was just thinking, so if this is a decentralized supercomputer built on top of Arweave's permanent data storage, what is the value of AO? And AO is not something you're going to go and get a price prediction for, because no one's talking about AO. I believe this is the only channel that covers Arweave and AO consistently. But I do believe I've seen shades of Bitensor Tau for the price of 16 bucks. Now, whether this goes to $1,000, whether it goes to zero, of course, you've got to do your own research. But Sam Williams is an interesting character. And as the world demands the growth of an ecosystem that requires multiple different solutions for permanent internet, decentralized internet, right? AO and Arweave come to discussion. Now, one community that's already shaking in their boots is the ICP community, okay? ICP is building a supercomputer, because there's an argument, of course. Everybody says Ethereum is the supercomputer. No, it's just decentralized, basically code, right? The most important in the history after Bitcoin. But ICP is sitting at $3 billion, okay? Tau is obviously the king now, overtaking Neo Protocol. Neo's made a comeback, all right? We see this, $4 billion. But what are we looking at? should AOs be bigger and better than Arweave with Arweave's kind of founder? Let's look at the comparison. This is $600 million in valuation, right? Plenty of pump and dumps along the way. And what is this shit tokenomics? Supply. Okay, granted, circulating and total is good. But should this be more valuable than Arweave? AOs? I don't think so. Should DEXI be more valuable than AOs? I mean, Arweave? Absolutely not. Circulating, 57, total, 69. So even if you do a layman's analysis, the fully diluted is 1.2 billion. Arweave's fully diluted, fully circulated is 540 million. Now, where would the rival of the internet computer be at this point, in my opinion? You keep going. You got things like AGI or Fala Network bigger than this. It doesn't even, aitech is bigger than this. You know, it's unbelievable, right? AO is $60 million, $64 million. Look at the tokenomics. Yes, granted, there are a max supply of 21 million and there's minting, but you can't mint faster than you can bring them into the market anyway, right? 3 million tokens. Should this be over $1,000 in this bull market? Of course, $16, 10x would be 166, right? The mathematics here is in our favor. AO and Arweave are some of the most incredible projects that I've ever seen from a founder that explains it. It's not easy to understand. It's not a meme coin. But could we one day look back and say, look, Arweave could get to $500, AO could get to $1,000. Thank you very much. Happy days. You never know. But give yourself an opportunity to do some research. And you know what? Smash a like, because I've done that research for you. Check this out. You know, the way he covers this is just quite remarkable.
Aside from just meeting a good product market fit, and what should our listeners sort of look for in terms of tokenomics for other things that you think are important in the blockchain ecosystem, like Arweave?
Interesting. The first one that comes to mind is don't be hyperinflationary.
Yes.
Like, don't print crazy numbers of tokens to subsidize supply when you don't have any demand. That's not a wise idea. Yeah, that's the place to start. The second part, I think it's just fundamentally useful to people. Like, it's grown in usage through both of those bear markets. Is it only two? Feels like more. Yeah, 3 bull markets, I guess, and 2 bear markets. I'm not sure if you call this a bull market. I don't know. 2.5, something like that. Yeah, it's just grown in utility for people. And it's a cool thing because that's a compounding utility over time, right? Like when we first built it on day one, I come to you and I say, look at my shiny, permanent information storage system. It's got all these cool features. And you're like, okay, but it's permanent and it's been around for 1 day. Well, it's 6 years now. It's like non-trivial part of Bitcoin's history right there. And it's been stable and mature. And so more and more builders trust it. And I think that slowly compounds interest over time as people start to realize what it is. I mean, frankly, I think Arweave's biggest problem, at least until the start of this year, was our marketing for it has always been very careful because we really are seriously trying to build a permanent information storage system. We're conscious that the words that we say in the early years might have effects downstream that we can't easily predict. So we like to make our statements sort of accurate and terse, if that makes sense. Like really just try and say that, yes, try and stay on topic. It's kind of ironic. Like I built it as a permanent ledger of speech so that anyone can speak on the internet without having to have an intermediary between them. And then I also found that my own personal speech was massively curtailed because I'm associated with a project and I don't want to do like an Elon Musk style hyperpolarization of the user base because many, many years down the line, it's going to be like, oh, that's that guy that I disagree with this thing he said about something completely unrelated. And so But anyway, yeah, so it's kind of in the background there, being picked up by more and more builders as time goes by. Doesn't have hyperinflationary tokenomics. Actually, the tokenomics are super cool, but that's and it's,
Well, I mean,
we can get there.
I'd love to talk about, just because I think your main competitor, Filecoin, whether you want to call them your main competitor or not, at least in the mind of crypto, they are. And they take kind of the complete opposite approach in terms of token inflation marketing. Basically, almost everything. So it'd be kind of, interesting to compare and contrast between the two, and then you can talk about the token economics as well.
Yeah, well, so I think the wider point is perhaps the one that has more meat to it, which is that most token designs really don't actually make any logical long-term sense without being extractive from the user base, which kind of goes against that core principle of why we're all here, which is to build services in cyberspace that users can trust in the same way they trust a constitution. Can't be swapped. There's no switcheroo. And with Filecoin, basically the token value accrual mechanism is you pay for storage for a period of time. You take those tokens out of circulation for that period. Okay, that makes sense. Like MV equals PQ, the equation of exchange, you're just lowering the velocity of those tokens. Yeah, it makes some sense, but you need a lot of storage in order to do that relative to the market cap. Arweave has the same effect, but magnified approximately 100-fold, something like that. The maximum deal size on Filecoin is 2 years. But on Arweave, you pay for 200 years worth of storage up front. And so you take those tokens out of circulation. And there's an interesting argument to make as to whether you're essentially burning them or just lowering the velocity. But it's kind of immaterial because you're lowering the velocity for hundreds of years at minimum. So it may as well be they're just burnt. And that has a mechanism where you're not incentivized as the protocol to increase the cost to users, because that would decrease the amount that they're actually going to store. And at the same time, you're not being extractive. There's that huge safety margin, but it's there for a reason. It might actually be used in the future. We can't predict what's going to happen in the storage markets 50 years from now. And so this mechanism allows you, without being extractive to the user, like literally you pay 0 cents above what the protocol truly believes the cost of storage is, like the cost of supply. And at the same time, the token accrues value because you're just moving more and more tokens out of circulation proportionate to usage. And it's very, very hard to get a token design like that actually makes sense. And so that's one of the things that I think is underappreciated about the protocol, but I kind of like because I spent a long time working on it, I suppose.
No, that's really interesting and elegant. I want to dig into the tokenomics a little bit more because I think it's just so important. We're in this phase of the cycle where altcoins have underperformed. You have these majors like Bitcoin, ETH, Solana performing, so the infrastructure layer is performing. Then you have unlike maybe the previous cycle where all altcoins were sort of viewed as bets on the future, I think there's a little bit of apathy this cycle around the middle of the risk curve, as we traders call it, tokens associated with projects like yours, and then let's call it a casino. The meme coin shit show is volatile and interesting for some traders, but that sort of middle of the spectrum is very difficult for people to understand. What I think what a lot of fatigued crypto traders are wondering right now is, if I buy a token like Arweave, it's not a security, it can't pass through dividends, there's no value accrual mechanism to that token in dollar space with securities law the way that it currently stands. So what's going to drive my upside other than new people buying into it? And the interesting thing about Arweave that I like so much is that you're literally paying for a product that has product market fit already in those tokens. So you can kind of guarantee an inflow of fiat into the Arweave ecosystem, unlike, name your 99% of other altcoins. So I guess, why hasn't the market, can you think of reasons why the market hasn't sort of picked up on this and thought of Arweave as the type of protocol where, unlike most, there is this constant sort of inflow of fiat for, to buy the product?
Well, I think it has to some extent, most in recent months. But I do think that the understanding of the utility lags behind where things are actually at. Like for a very long time, when we spoke to people about Arweave, they were just like, "Oh, it's storage. It's like Filecoin." It's like, not really. It's doing something that you can only do with a blockchain. That meme is spreading, but it spreads kind of slowly. And I also think that it also goes in the same way that Arweave has found liquidity. Right? So people have just discovered it on their own accord. Like we spoke to many exchanges about Arweave over the years, but we only really ever signed agreements with, even NDAs with 2 or 3, and now it's on most major exchanges because people find utility in it. And I think that that's what drives long-term value. It's like just build something useful and make it complete and actually scalable so that it won't just stop working and then there's a crisis in the community. And then work to spread it as wide as you can. Like at this point, Arweave, the core protocol, is mature enough that the tweaks we make to it are very minor. We try to, unless there's like a fundamental problem, and there hasn't been really since like Arweave 2.0, which has been, we introduced the arbitrarily scalable mechanisms, and that was like 4 years ago at this point. And unless there's a fundamental problem, we make the minimum viable nudge to the protocol. And it's kind of in line with Bitcoin. Nothing more than the Bitcoin community would accept.
You literally stole the next question out of my mouth, which was, this sounds like you're describing a benchmark L1 Bitcoin, or I would have said, ETH as well. I think Solana, they're a little more hands-on. But so should the market perceive Arweave like proper L1 and not bucket it with other altcoins, using air quotes here?
Yeah, and I think it will over time. It's just, how markets go. They're like eventually efficient, but they can be quite inefficient in the meantime. But at this point, it's just like Bitcoin, except for permanent storage at scale. And I actually think that, Ethereum to me seems way more hands-on. I'm curious I don't know what the institutional bias is with you guys on Ethereum, but that's an interesting conversation if you want to have it.
I think, Ethereum is generally deemed as very hands-on.
Hands-on.
I mean, there's a lot of change, right? And there are a few people that are effectively in charge of driving forward that change. Obviously, there are a huge amount of people whose opinions are voiced, but then the actual process, I think and that generally I think is deemed okay, because when Bitcoin is immutable because it's money, and it's a lot less complicated than Ethereum from that perspective, right? There are a lot less things that I think can go wrong with BTC. And so when you're building a platform, this is at least from the perspective of a lot of investors, Ethereum investors talking from their perspective, the idea is, well, we have to be responsive to the changes, right? We have to be responsive to changes. And that, I think, is what drives the hands-on nature of Ethereum. Do I necessarily agree with that perspective? I'd say that a lot of the reasons that people got into crypto in the first place is that they wanted to build on a platform that they know wouldn't change the rules on them. And so I think that obviously is not Ethereum at this point in time. But I'm just trying to make the argument from the perspective of the people that are changing it, right? And I think that one question I have about this, and I'd like to hear your responses. There does seem to be development around AR in terms of new projects that are building on AR, like AO. And how does this sort of play into the Arweave as a L1 narrative? It was confusing to me because I'm not sure. Maybe is AO going to be competing with Arweave, but still built on Arweave?
No,
right?
God, no.
Because so again, this is what I'm trying trying to figure
Yeah.
out. Maybe you can start with what is AO.
Right. So AO is an actor-oriented computer. Basically, the idea is to build a decentralized supercomputer. You kind of heard it before many times, described as the world computer, but this time it actually works. And
Is this like Gollum?
no. Well,
Okay.
so I mentioned before that the Ethereum ICO, right? I went to that website, and in the middle of the website, at least as far as my memory serves, maybe it's in a video potentially, but in their marketing, they said Ethereum is the world computer. Okay, that sounds cool. I want to be part of that. And what they delivered was really very, very interesting and unlocked a huge amount of innovation on top. But it just doesn't scale. It's like a world's most enormous calculator. It's kind of absurd. It's like you have 70,000, it oscillates a lot, but around 70,000 different nodes, and it's doing the amount of computation that you would get in a literal desktop calculator that you would use in school. And that I also think speaks to the prior point, which is, why is Ethereum so hands-on? I think the answer is simple. It's like the protocol doesn't work. Right? If the protocol worked, then I think the whole development of crypto over the last 10 years would have been completely different. Because if they'd shipped something that was more in line with what their sharding design was, which actually could scale in theory, but has different trade-offs.
I'm going to leave a link in the description. You've got to watch this, right? You've really, really got to watch this, because I do believe that, at the end of the day, this information I'm giving you is going to help you decide whether this is a worthwhile investment. At the end of the day, we're investors. We don't care where 100x comes from, a meme coin, which is very unlikely, or whether it comes from a well-researched project. But my thesis is always look for things that you can hold multiple cycles. And this is such a fascinating project, in my opinion. And I think you should investigate some more. Anyway, guys, leave a like and check out Sam Williams, because I think this guy is literally, as far as a founder is concerned of a project, I think he's a complete friggin' genius. All right. We've smashed it with Sui, we've smashed it with Kaspa, we smashed it with, meme coins or whatever. But this is genuinely a banging ecosystem that's way undervalued. All right. So I hope you find my videos useful. If you do, give me a like, subscribe to the channel. This is honestly the most amazing times of our lives, because we are looking at generational projects that can do really well. Okay. So check it out. AO, of course, at $64 million market cap. Arweave at $540 million. Together, I do believe they take on the likes of Tau and ICP. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll catch you on the next one, guys. Take care.